This is the last part of module 4. So this is completing the accounting cycle. So here we're going to take up or discuss adjustments are journalized or the remaining accounting cycle, step number 7 and step number 8, step number 9, and step number 10. So first is step number 7. Di ba sa assignment, DJ, I did not require you to prepare the assignment, to prepare or formally prepare the adjusting journal entries for the worksheet and the financial statement assignment. Simply because here, no, in step number 7, this is the only time that you're going to prepare it in a formal adjusting journal entries. That you have a debit and a credit, tapos indented and credit, and you have the explanation, and the amounts are also posted on the debit and credit columns, no? Unlike sa worksheet, there was no explanation, no? You just simply wrote the amounts in the column if it affects the debit column. So you write it in the debit column, and if it affects the credit column, then you write it on the credit column. Here, no, dili na, no, it's a formal preparation of an adjusting entries. So you have here an example, no, of the adjusting entries. So you have there, this is actually the adjusting entries, no, for the weddings are us. Not an example na ako taghatag the first. So again, as I've said, good job on the EJO analysis if you have already in the worksheet. So it would be easier for you to formally prepare a adjusting journal entry. So mas sadyon na kan. So extract ra, no? Extract ra from the worksheet that you prepare on a separate journal paper for the adjusting journal entries. Next would be step number 8. Closing entries are journalized and posted. So here, income and expense and withdrawal accounts are temporary accounts. I have already discussed this one to you, that the balance sheet accounts or the statement of financial position accounts are permanent accounts, or the accounts, no, under that statement are called permanent accounts, or they are also called real accounts, no, because they are not closed at the end of an accounting period. But for the income, expense, withdrawal, and the income summary accounts, they are closed at the end of the accounting period, that they are termed as temporary accounts or nominal accounts. So the real accounts, no, or the statement of financial position accounts is also termed as permanent accounts if the income and expense and withdrawal and income summary accounts are temporary accounts. So these temporary accounts facilitate income statement preparation at the end of each year. The balances of these temporary accounts are transferred to the capital account. Thus, the balance of the owner's capital account represents the cumulative net results of income, expense, and withdrawal transactions. This phase of the cycle is called the closing procedure. A temporary account class is said to be closed when an entry is made such that its balance becomes zero. Siyempre, di ba, kung ano yung balance, kung i-close nimo, di ba, waya o nakibali. It would become zero. Closing simply transfers the balance from one account to another account, no? In this case, the balances of the temporary accounts are transferred to the capital account. So later on, you would learn, no, that gikan ba sa ang mga income ba eventually i-close ra dito sa capital. Then the expense accounts are also close to capital account, and the income summary, the income and expense are close to, income and expense are close to income summary account, and the income summary account is also close to the capital account. So that's why eventually the income and expense are closed or to become part, whatever result, be it there was a profit or a loss, no? If there's a profit, the capital account will increase. If there's a loss, the capital account will decrease. A summary account, income summary, is used to close the income and expense account. So this is the one that I've said. The steps in closing the accounts of an entity will be illustrated using the weddings are as case. So first is to close the income accounts. Income accounts of credit balances before the closing entries are posted. No? For this reason, an entry debiting each revenue in the amount of its balance is needed to close the account. The credit is made to the income summary. Of course, no? I-close mo na to ang income and then ato balancing figure would be the income summary. So, di ba? For all we know, income have credit balances. So here, we have debit in the closing entry for income. We now debit the consulting revenues and referral revenues accounts, and we credit income summary account for the amounts given in the balance of the ledger or the trial balance, or in the worksheet that we have done, or on the adjusted trial balance, or under the income statement balance column. No? I mean, income statement credit column, no? Under the worksheet. The dual effect of the entry is to make the balances of the income accounts equal to zero and to transfer the balances in total to the credit side of the income summary account. Note that the data for closing the income accounts can be found in the credit side of the income statement columns of the worksheet in Exhibit 5-4. Itong last meeting, no? Itong video, no, that I asked you to view, no? And also class, no, from now on, ako na notice man good class to, no, before I forgot. Ako na notice gamay ra gadyoy nag-request ng membership sa BA1. I really wanted you, that all of you, so that you will be updated. So please request membership for the BA1 group, FB group, no? Otherwise, I will take it as an attendance. That would be again another assignment, no? That make sure that all of you or each one of you have already requested membership for BA1. Subscribe my YouTube channel so that you would be prompted with new videos that I will be posting, no, for the topic. But of course, you can unsubscribe right after BA1, no? After mag-second sem na, pwede na hindi mo unsubscribe because I'm not actually up to that there would be, my YouTube channel would be monetized. Okay, ang ako na purpose would really be able to make my teaching easier, no? Not really monetizing my videos for teaching. Okay, then to close the expense account, the next is, first is aton procedure in closing. First, close the income accounts to income summary account. Second is close the expense account to income summary account. So expense accounts of debit balances before the closing entries are posted. For this reason, a compound entry is needed, crediting each expense account for its balance and debiting the income summary for the total. This data can be found in the debit side of the income statement column of the worksheet. So, of course, daton mga income, mga expense dyan sa debit column nan, worksheet sa income statement na columns, no? And aton income, ato sa credit, no? Kung if you would like to review the weddings are us or the assignment that I gave, I hope you have prepared it correctly, no? So you would learn that diyan mo ang expense sa debit and the debit column of the worksheet of the income statement and the income statement columns, and also the income is under the credit column of the income statement columns in the worksheet. So first, no, I mean, to close the expense, so di ba normal balance and expense debit? So to close, ato credit, no? To make the accounts zero. Can you remember the purpose of closing is to make the accounts zero at the end of the accounting period because they are closed, because they are temporary accounts. Okay, so dalawa, debit no to income summary account, and the income summary amount is the total of all expense account, no? Kung imo dyan i-antanan amounts under credit to the expense accounts, it would total to the 36,700 for to be debited for income summary. The effect of posting the closing entry is to reduce the expense account balances to zero and to transfer the same, no? The balances to the debit side of the income summary account. So, kibot ipasabot, lang bitaw ko, there would be instances the income summary may have a debit balance if the expense or expenses is greater than income. And then the income summary would have a credit balance if income is greater than expense. So next is to close the income summary account itself, no? Can you remember temporary account run income summary, the one that I mentioned, although dili siya appeal, there is ako tag-mention, no? That income expense withdrawal, actually part of it is the income summary account, no? Dire, no? Ang income summary account is used to close the income and expense accounts. So ako dyan i-highlight. Okay. So, to close the income summary account, so let's subtract, di ba kaina, nag-credit kita ng income summary for 71,700. So, ato i-minus ang debit na income summary account na 36,700. Of course, the balance would be a credit. So, kaya ato man sa i-close, ato sa siya i-debit, no? Or, at this point, siguro I'll show to you kung tinuod ba. For example, this is the income summary account. Okay, di ba? For the first entry, there was a credit to income summary for 30, how much was it? Sorry. 36, no. 71,700, no? 71,700. And there was also, for the expense, it was debited for 36,700, I think. Can I check? 36,700, no, Jari, debit to income summary. So, in effect, so pilay balance at this point of the income summary account. So it's a credit, no? Kaya mas dako man ang credit kaysa debit for 35,000. Okay. So that is the balance of the income summary, credit. So kaya ato man subsidy close to the capital account. So debit to income summary kay close ba nato, and then credit to Perez Manalo Capital for the net amount of the income summary, which is 35,000 pesos. Okay? The effect of posting this closing entry is to close the income summary account balance and to transfer the balance to the capital Perez Manalo Capital account. Next is to close the withdrawal. Ini dapat number 4 man. Sige, close. Okay. To close the withdrawal account. What is the normal balance of withdrawal? Debit. No? To close ato i-credit. The withdrawal account shows the amount by which capital is reduced during the period by withdrawals of cash or other assets of the business by the owner for personal use. For this reason, the debit balance of the withdrawal account must be close to the capital account of the proprietor. So that's why we debit, no? I-debit man nato paggamayan kaya nag-withdraw man si owner. So to close the withdrawal account, i-credit nato withdrawal because its normal balance is debit. And of course, we have to deduct or reduce the capital balance of Perez Manalo to reflect the withdrawal made by him for personal use. So we debited Perez Manalo capital and credited Perez Manalo to close the withdrawal account. So I have a video here, no? Reference. Actually, these are coming from my colleagues. The videos that I have attached here are not that of my YouTube channel. They are that of my colleagues in the profession, or they are from certified public accountants. The next is we're done with step number 7, step number 8, and now let's proceed to step number 9, which is the preparation of the post-closing trial balance. Okay. I just want you to learn, no? Diba, for example, class, in the trial balance, no, in the worksheet that we prepared, or the adjusted trial balance, no, in the worksheet that we prepared, diba, it contains pa assets, liabilities, capital, withdrawal, income summary, income accounts, and expense accounts. No, jaon pa dyan si Ja. But when we're done, no, with step number 8, which is the preparation of the closing entries, the expense, the income summary account, the withdrawal account, balikon ko, o naman mo gawas ang withdrawal, no, in sequence sa atong presentation sa trial balance. Una, i-close, akibali mawaya ang withdrawal account, mawaya ang income account, mawaya ang expense account. So what is left with the trial balance would only be the assets, liabilities, and the capital account. No? So that's why the post-closing trial balance is also called a statement of financial position in a trial balance form, or a balance sheet in a trial balance form. Kaya umang trial balance form man, kaya dyan may debit sa ng credit columns. No? Kaya kung dili isang trial balance, kung formal statement, dapat isegregate ang assets, liabilities, and equity that based on the financial statement, no, example that I gave you, di ba, formally, they are separated. No? So, since we have already prepared the closing, so, ano na mo gawas? Waya na doon, income, withdrawal, income, and expense account. Now, what is left would be assets, dereo, assets, aton, of course, aton mga accumulated depreciation o contra asset accounts, and the liabilities and the capital account. Waya na sabad doon, withdrawal. And note that the capital account of Perez Manalo is now adjusted to 271,000. No? So, ana siya. So, again, balikong ko, the post-closing trial balance is a statement of financial position or a balance sheet in a trial balance form. Kaya mabilin lagi, puro ramakan asset, liabilities, and capital, which are the elements of the statement of financial position or the balance sheet. So let's just take up this. So it is possible to commit an error in posting the adjustments or closing entries to the ledger accounts. Thus, it is necessary to test the quality of the accounts by preparing a new trial balance. This final trial balance is called a post-closing trial balance. The post-closing trial balance verifies all the debits and all the debits equal the credits in the trial balance. The trial balance contains only balance sheet items or statement of financial position items such as assets, liabilities, and capital because all income and expense and withdrawal account have already zero balances. Notice that only the balance sheet accounts have balances at this point that all income accounts have been closed. Again, the other term for the post-closing trial balance is okay, so post-closing trial balance is a balance sheet or statement of financial position in a trial balance form. You have to take note of that. Okay, again, as I've said, ang mabilin mangunidya, puro rakan, asset, liabilities, and capital, which are the elements of the balance sheet or the statement of financial position. Okay, next. So, Jonah, no? Next step is the reversing entries, step number 10. So preparing the post-closing trial balance may not be the last step in the accounting cycle. Actually, class, this is optional. No? The reversing entries is optional. Buti pa sabot, it can be performed. Pwede na subdili CJE perform. No? But in most, thus, all businesses adopts this one? No, except for the computerized. No? Those that are whose system or accounting system are computerized, they are using step number 10 or no. But for those engaging in manual, pwede na dili na magdamit nan, dili na mag-prepare nan reversing entries. Going back, the adjusting entries, the closing entries are prepared at the end of an accounting period. No? For example, if it's a calendar year, then it is prepared on December 31, whatever year is that applicable. Reversing entries are actually prepared on the first day of the next accounting period. So kung calendar year, December 31, an IJA reversing entry period would start with January 1. Kung 2021, December 31, 2021, IJA adjusting entries, the reversing entries would be January 1, 2022. No? So, I mean, balikan ko, if the adjusting entries or closing entries are made on December 31, 2021, the reversing entries are recorded or prepared on January 1, 2022. First day of the next accounting period. Okay, reversing entry is a journal entry, which is the exact opposite of a related adjusting entry made at the end of the period. It is basically a bookkeeping technique made to simplify the recording of regular transactions in the next accounting period. No? It should be emphasized that reversing entries are optional. No? That also, the act of reversing a previously recorded adjusting entry should not lead us to the conclusion that the entries reversed are unnecessary or inaccurate. Even when an entity follows the policy of making reversing entries, not all adjusting entries should be reversed. Dili tanan. Ang i-reverse ra, you have to take note of that. I have to change it to green. Ako i-bold gamay because this should be your basis, no, in preparing or choosing among those that we prepared as adjusting entries to be reversed for the next accounting period. Generally, kuno, a reversing entry should be made for any adjusting entry that increased an asset or a liability. Okay. So kung ato balikan, ato adjusting entries diri sa weddings are as, No, dyan man ang adjusting entries at formal preparation of the adjusting entries. So ato hanapon which among here are those that increases adjusting entries that increases the assets and increases the liability. So the first adjusting entry is crediting a debiting rent expense. So nag-increase din ni ang expense, dili kon ang asset or liability because the asset here is being debited, is credited. So buti pa sabot ni gamay hinuon. So dili siya mo qualify. Dari expense sub ang nag-increase. So dili sub. The asset is reduced, no? Tag-decrease hinuon dili sa second entry. Supplies expense. The expense na gihapon ng account, ang asset nag-decrease, no? Depreciation and accumulated waya, no? Expense gihapon. Expense ini unearned referral revenues is a liability, tag-debit man nato, so tag-decrease. So di gihapon sa mo qualify, no? Salaries expense. Salaries expense. Nag-increase, but the liability also increased. So in this case, nag-increase man ang liability, di ba? Laong bitaw aton qualification na dapat for adjusting entries to be part of the reversing entries, dapat ang asset sanan ang or ang liabilities. Dili sa end, no? Ang asset or ang liabilities nag-increase, no? So this is the first, no, item adjusting entry that qualifies for reversing entry. So nag-debit sa increase ang salaries expense on the expense account, but the liability also increases. So this qualifies. Next, debit to interest expense, nag-increase ang interest expense or expense, and also the liability here increases. So another, no, adjusting entry that will qualify for reversing entry. And another one, we debited accounts receivable, no? Nag-debit accounts receivable, then nag-credit kita ng consulting revenues. Does this qualify? Yes, no? Because the asset here is increased. Nag-increase ang asset, no? So tanaw nato. Let's go back, no, to the discussion of the reversing entries. Here. Therefore, all accruals are reversed. So aton accruals, aton tanan sa last part, are reversed, but only deferrals initially recorded in income statement under income or expense accounts are reversed. No? Using the summary of adjusting entries in Chapter 5, the veracity of the general rule stated in the previous paragraph can be proven. For example, in the case of a prepaid expense, initially recorded as an expense account, then the adjusting entry was debiting the expense and crediting prepaid expense. No? An asset increased here, hence applying the general rule, this adjustment can be reversed. After analyzing, okay. After analyzing the rest of the adjusting entries, adjustments can be reversed are as follows. Atong prepaid expense, atong expense method, unearned revenues, income method, and accrued expenses and accrued revenues. But of course, I did not touch anymore atong expense method and income method, no, in recording income and expense. So I only take up with you accrued expenses and accrued revenues. So aton salaries expense, the adjusting entries debit to salaries expense and credit to salaries payable. So the reversing entries would be a debit to salaries, or actually dili, no, we have reversing entries diha. The reversing entries, darira. Reversing entries debit to, tagbalira nato ato adjusting entry. Diba, debit to, diba, ang adjusting entries debit to salaries expense and credit to salaries payable. So here, sa reversing entries, tagbalira nato ato tag-reverse gani og sa reversing entries. So debit to salaries payable and credit to salaries expense. Okay. So this is, again, another example for This is again another example for ano pwede? Aton sa medical, sino pa to? Marasigan Capital, aton Harvard Medical Clinic, no? So these are the closing journal entries for Harvard Harvard Medical Clinic. So these are the closing entries. No, I think I haven't showed to you the reversing the adjusting entries, but of course it was maybe because it was already part of the adjusting entries discussion that I already introduced to you earlier. No, aton before ako nag-worksheet, nag-introduce na dana ko ng adjusting entries. It was already taken as part of the example. So wala na gani explanation ako taghimo na example sa AJE. And then the post-closing trial balance, no, looking at here, wala na ton mga expense, income, withdrawal, income, and expense accounts. So reversing journal entries, jari, pero dapat appeal pa ton isa, ton accounts receivable, no? I mean, ton nag-increase na accounts receivable, debit to accounts receivable, and credit to consulting revenues. So here, so tagbalira, no? The interest expense and interest payable. So again, you have to take note that after all entries have been made, di ba, humana kita ng general ledger. First, we did, after naton journal entries, tag-post na nato sa ledger. And then after dapat na adjusting entries, i-post na sub sa ledger. After ng closing entries, i-post na sub sa ledger. And the reversing entries should also be posted to the ledger. But of course, the reversing entries would be only recorded for the next accounting period. So na-notice ni Joe, this is my adjusted daton sa ano pa ini? Sa Harvard, no? This is the example of the ledger of Harvard Medical Clinic or that of Marasigan Capital. I want to emphasize on the closing entries and adjusting entries. Here, this is how we write, no? The adjusting journal entries, AJE, adjusting journal entries. And I remember that I assume that it is in the general journal page number 3. So credit man atong salaries payable ato sa adjusting, but later on sa closing it becomes 0, no? I mean, sa reversing sa next accounting period mahimo na sa 0. Pero for 2021 kinta, for example, if this is for the year 2021, jaon pa siya. Hindi pa man natin reverse because take note that the reversing entry is only made on the next accounting period, first day of the next accounting period. So here, not the mga adjusting entries. CJE, this is closing entries, no? So giant closing entries. This is the closing entries for income, and this is the closing entries for income summary, no? And this is the closing entries for withdrawal. So take note that after the closing entries, the expense accounts are now, its value is already 0, or its balance becomes 0 already. Take note, 0 na siya. And that's it for today. We are now up with module number 4. That next meeting would be discussed. What would be discussed would be module number 5. If I would be able to, sige, next meeting na ka, no? So next meeting, as I've said, it is already examination period. But as I've said, we always come late. Your exam would be, ano pa pizza, ang exam, 2021-22. I look into the examination period for pre-final. So your pre-final would be on December 2021. What days are that? So let's check with the calendar. So 20 is Monday, 21 is 22 is Wednesday. I don't know what would be your schedule. Pero definitely, as I've said, if you have a schedule on class, let's look into the schedule to no, of the exam. That if, for example, kay Saturday ba dyan is 25 naman, but of course, I don't want to be a kontrabida to your Christmas celebration. We might as well rakan siguro na take up chapter module 5, mag-exam ra kang kita as schedule, no? So but then I think we still have next Saturday 18, no? For classes for module number 5. Sige, dyan pa ba dyan ato next Saturday. So, as is na ka natin schedule, kung whatever would be the schedule sa FLAIR or the schedule that would be given for BA1, that would be all your exam. Okay? So, that's it. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining me.